The world ended on a Tuesday. Nobody remembers the exact date anymore, but everyone remembers the silence after the screaming. 3 years had passed since the dead rose. 3 years of running, hiding, and losing. Rick Grimes had been a sheriff, a husband, a father. Now, he was something else. A survivor, a leader, a man who had buried his wife and watched his best friend die.
The group had found a new home, an old warehouse complex in rural Georgia. The walls were weak, the roof leaked, but it was theirs. Daryl hunted in the forest every morning before dawn. Michonne kept watch at night, her sword never leaving her side. Carol, who had once been a battered housewife, had become the heart of the group. She taught the children to read from old books. She held the broken pieces together when everyone else fell apart. Glenn and Maggie, still young, still in love, still believing that this world could offer something more than just survival. They had lost so much, but they had not lost each other. And in this world, that was everything. But something was coming, something none of them expected. Far above the earth, 136 years into the future, the Ark was dying. 3 generations had lived in those metal tubes, 200,000 souls, breathing recycled air, eating recycled food, waiting for Earth to heal. Abby Griffin, Clarke's mother, was the Ark's chief medical officer. She had watched her husband floated into space for telling the truth. Now, she watched her daughter being sent to the ground as a test subject.
Marcus Kane stood beside her. He had voted for the prisoners to be sent. He believed it was the only way. He was a man of logic, of hard choices, of sacrifices. Jaha, the chancellor, had lost his son. He carried that grief like a stone around his neck. He believed the Ark could survive. He believed in rules, in order, in the illusion of control. But none of them knew what was really happening. Raven Reyes, a young engineer, had been working on a secret project, an old quantum drive from the 21st century. She thought she could use it to communicate with the ground. She thought she could bring the 100 home. She was wrong.
Clarke Griffin didn't want to be a leader. She wanted to be a doctor, to heal, to save. But the Ark had taken her father. The council had lied to her. And now, she was falling toward Earth in a metal coffin with 99 other prisoners, most of them children, most of them scared, all of them alone. Bellamy Blake was not a prisoner. He had stolen a guard's uniform and snuck onto the dropship to protect his sister, Octavia, a girl who had spent her entire life hidden under the floor, a secret too dangerous to keep. Octavia had never seen the sky until that day, never felt wind on her face, never run through grass. When the dropship broke through the clouds and she saw the green below, she wept. Monty Green was a hacker, a quiet boy with kind eyes and quick fingers. He had never killed anyone, never wanted to. Murphy was the opposite. Sharp tongue, sharp edges, a boy who had been beaten down so many times that he had learned to bite before being bitten. Raven wasn't on the dropship. She was still on the Ark, watching them fall, praying to a god she didn't believe in. And then, the quantum drive activated, and everything changed. The crash shook the ground for miles. Rick felt it through his boots, a deep rumble, not thunder, not an explosion, something else, something that didn't belong. Daryl was the first to see it.
a fireball tearing across the sky, trailing smoke and fire. Carol grabbed the children and pushed them into the back room, her mother's instinct kicking in before anyone could think. Glenn grabbed a map, trying to calculate where it had fallen. Maggie kissed his cheek, a quick, silent prayer. What the hell was that? Rick grabbed his revolver. I don't know, but we're going to find out. They moved through the forest like shadows. Daryl took point, crossbow raised. Michonne covered the rear, katana drawn. Rick led the center. Carol stayed behind to protect the camp. Her battle was there, with the young and the weak. Glenn and Maggie came anyway. They always came. They had done this 100 times before. But this time felt different. The air smelled different. The forest felt different. Something had changed. And in this world, change usually meant death. Clarke woke up first. Smoke burned her lungs. Fire crackled 20 feet away. Her head was bleeding. Her ribs hurt. The dropship was destroyed, torn open like a tin can. She pushed debris off her legs and stood up. Bellamy? Octavia? Raven? Bellamy was unconscious, but breathing. Octavia was already on her feet, knife in hand, scanning the trees for threats. The girl who had lived under a floor was now a warrior. Raven wasn't there. Raven was still in the future, screaming at a broken quantum core. Monty was pulling Murphy out of the wreckage. Murphy's leg was bleeding, but he was alive. "Where are we?" Clarke whispered. The trees were wrong. Too tall, too green. The air smelled different. No radiation, no metal. Just pine and soil and something else. Something rotting. Abby Griffin, Clarke's mother, was still on the Ark, watching her daughter's signal disappear from every screen. She fell to her knees. Kane put a hand on her shoulder. Jaha turned away. None of them knew that Clarke had traveled through time, that she had landed in 2013, that she was about to meet the dead. And the dead were already coming. The first walker came out of the trees. Monty screamed, a high-pitched sound he didn't know he could make. He had never seen anything like this. The grounders were dangerous, but they were alive. This thing was dead. Rotting skin, dead eyes, still moving. Octavia didn't hesitate. She had been trained by grounders. She had killed before. She drove her knife into its skull. Black blood sprayed across her face. The walker fell. But another came, and another. 3, 5, 10. Murphy, who had always run from danger, picked up a piece of metal and stood in front of Monty. "Get behind me," he said. It was the first brave thing he had ever done. Clarke shouted orders, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Bellamy, cover the left. Octavia, right flank. Monty, stay behind Murphy." Bellamy fought with his bare hands. No gun, no knife, just fists and fury. Octavia moved like water, knife flashing. Murphy swung his weapon like a man possessed. But more kept coming, and the kids were running out of time. And then, crossbow bolts. 3 shots, 3 walkers down. Daryl Dixon stepped out of the smoke. Behind him, Rick, Michonne, Glenn, Maggie. A dozen survivors, dirty, tired, but deadly. They didn't ask questions, they didn't hesitate, they just started killing. Daryl moved like a ghost, reloading in 2 seconds, firing in 3. His crossbow never stopped. Michonne's katana sliced through bone and skull like butter. Glenn, who had once been a pizza delivery boy, fought with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. Maggie, a farmer's daughter, used a crowbar with terrifying efficiency.
Rick's revolver never missed. 5 shots, 5 walkers dead. Within minutes, the walkers were all on the ground. Steam rose from their rotting bodies in the cold morning air. Clarke stared at them, breathing hard, hands shaking. "Who are you?" Rick lowered his gun. He looked at the crashed ship, at the strange clothes, at the terrified faces. "I should be asking you that," he said. "You fell out of the sky."
Rick took them back to the warehouse. Carol was waiting at the gate, shotgun in hand. She looked at the kids, dirty, bloody, terrified, and lowered her weapon. "They're just children," she said. "They're not a threat." Maggie brought blankets. Glenn brought water. Carol brought soup. Hot soup, made from old vegetables and canned broth. It was the best thing Clarke had ever tasted. Abby Griffin, 1,000 years in the future, was still searching for her daughter. She had hacked into every system, begged every friend, threatened every enemy. "I will find her," she whispered to herself. "I will bring her home." Kane watched Abby destroy herself. He wanted to stop her, but he knew he couldn't. Jaha had given up. He sat in his quarters, staring at his son's photo, waiting for the end. None of them knew that Clarke was safe, that she was eating soup in a warehouse in 2013, that she had found something none of them had expected: hope. Rick sat across from Clarke. "So you're from the future?" he said. Clarke nodded. "And we can't go back. The drive is destroyed." Rick looked at Daryl. Daryl shrugged. "They ain't biters. They ain't trying to kill us. They can stay." Carol put a hand on Octavia's shoulder. "Welcome home," she said. And just like that, 2 worlds collided. 2013 and 2149. The dead and the living. Strangers from the sky. While Clarke and her friends were learning to survive in 2013, the Ark was falling apart. Oxygen levels dropped every day. Food supplies ran low. Abby Griffin refused to give up. She had lost her husband. She had lost her daughter. She would not lose hope. "There has to be a way," she said, staring at the quantum drive schematics. Marcus Kane stood beside her. He had voted to send the 100 to the ground. He had carried that guilt like a weight on his shoulders. "If we activate what's left of the drive," he said, "we might be able to follow them." Jaha shook his head. "It's too dangerous. We could tear the Ark apart." But Abby wouldn't listen. She worked through the night. Kane helped her. Even Jaha, broken, grieving, exhausted, came to watch. They didn't know if it would work. They didn't know if they would survive. But they had to try. For Clarke, for Bellamy, for all the children they had sent away. The drive hummed to life. Blue light filled the room. And then, nothing. The drive failed. Abby fell to her knees. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Kane put a hand on her shoulder. "We'll find another way," he said. But they both knew there was no other way. Back on Earth, something else was happening. Rick's group and Clarke's group had been living together for weeks. Trust had grown. Walls had been built. But the world outside kept moving. One morning, Daryl saw tracks. Not walker tracks, human tracks. Fresh. "Someone's out there," he said. Rick grabbed his revolver. "How many?" Daryl knelt down. 3, maybe 4. "They're watching us." Clarke stood beside Rick. "Survivors are survivors. Let me talk to them." Rick hesitated, then nodded. Daryl led the way. They found them at the edge of the forest. 3 people. Dirty, tired, armed. But not hostile. "We saw the crash," one of them said. "The fireball. Weeks ago. We came to see if anyone survived. Clarke stepped forward. We survived. Who are you? The man lowered his weapon. Name's Aaron. We're from a community. A safe place. Walls. Food. People. We're looking for survivors. Rick and Clarke looked at each other. A safe place? In this world? It sounded like a dream. But Aaron's eyes were honest. We don't have to decide now, Rick said. But you can stay. Eat. Rest. Then we'll talk. Aaron nodded. Fair enough. Episode 1 ended not with violence, but with something rare in this world. Hope. A new community on the horizon. New faces. New possibilities. The dead still walked, but the living were finally building something. Episode 1, complete. To be continued.